Hello, everybody. It's James Leichter from Aptora, and I want to thank you for being here. This is our internal company training where we train the staff of RA Tax and Accounting and certain people at Aptora. Certain be here, certain people don't. We usually have a good turnout. Be sure to like the video. If you like it, click that like button, and be sure to subscribe. If you subscribe, then you will get notifications every time one of these videos come out, and hopefully they're helpful to you. I think if people followed these videos, watched them as they come out, they would be a lot happier with their software. Let's get right into it. Today, we are going to talk about important monthly bookkeeping tasks. This is by no means the entire task list. It's just the things that we see people miss on a regular basis. First thing, keep your software updated. Check for enhancements. If there's an update available, that update. Now, what you might decide to do is put somebody in charge of this. You might have somebody update the software once a month. Maybe it's the last Friday of the month. That way you have the weekend to get used to the new features or talk about the new features. Maybe it's the last Thursday, and then you can use Friday to go over the new features. But keep the software updated. We're constantly tweaking it, making it faster, more stable, adding features to it, etc. It's one of the best ways to stay happy with it. Also, keep in mind, you can control through security who can check for updates. So you decide who can check update. That way somebody doesn't update the software and then force everyone else to update the software. Number 2, check for updates on your custom data views. The custom data views are not part of the regular software update. If you go down to the very bottom of the custom data view, you'll see a check for update option. We should probably move that to the top. We have so many of these. And you'll see any updates that are available. You'll see new custom data views, or you'll see data views that have been updated. So be sure to check for those. After you've updated the software and updated the custom data views, you'll want to double check user permissions, security. Sometimes when we put out a new feature, we add that to the security list. That way, if there's a new capability in the program or we're exposing new information, we don't automatically give it to all the users because we're not sure if you'll want that. So you would have to go in here and set the permissions so they can see that new information or use that new feature. Also, custom data views are always not set. So in other words, when you get a new custom data view, you do not have permission, even if you're the one that updated, you do not have permission to see it automatically because we never know if you are okay with that. We may be putting out a payroll custom data view and you don't want anyone to see that. So we don't give permission for any of the custom data views. If you want permission for everything, you might click Menu, Select All. We do recommend that very few people have permission to delete. So you might unselect Delete. And that way you've given permission for everything because you trust this person. Maybe this person's you. They can still void and inactivate, but they can't delete. If you want to delete something, then you would go see somebody with delete permissions or grant yourself delete permissions. But generally speaking, you don't want people deleting anything. You want them to void things. But for me, I'll hit Select All, Next, and Finish. Now I have permissions for everything. Permissions are loaded into memory when you first log in. We do that for speed purposes. Rather than logging out and logging back in, you can click Window, Refresh Security, and that will reload security into RAM. Let's close some of these things here. Oh, I want the toolbar. Let me get rid of the information center. Close that, close that, close that. About once a month, you want to check your company file information. start with a Files Property tab and check the first transaction date. This is the date of your very first transaction. You can see ours was 9/24/1920. Unless we've been in business since 1920 using this computer software, that could be a problem. Now, how did that get there? It's possible that we could have just entered the date incorrectly. The date of what? That could have been a check, a bill. It could have been an invoice, but it shouldn't have been 1920, and that can be throwing off our books. Look at your last transaction date right here, and that is 2030. Maybe you meant to do that. Maybe that's a future transaction that you put in here, but probably not in my case. So I want to fix that too. So it's a really good idea to go in here and occasionally look at your first and last transaction date. I would do that monthly. Check to see if your GJ, your general journal, is balanced. Are the credits and debits all balanced out? You might think, well, of course they are. They have to be. The software takes care of that. It should. But all accounting software can have a GJ come out of balance. Some software just hides it from you. A very popular program, I won't name names, but it's really popular. You can go down to Staples and buy a copy. They hide their GJ balance issues. We don't. So we're going to tell you if it's out of balance, and there's ways to fix that, but start by looking to see if it's in balance. Now, once you've done that, go over to your database stats and run the database maintenance. If you're hosted, if you are in our hosted environment, you do not need to do this. You would not do it. We take care of all that for you. But once a month, you want to run the database maintenance. You can learn more about that by clicking this hyperlink. You should have this set up automatically by your IT professional. But once a month, you can run that manually. Once again, if you want to know more from your software, click that link and you can go learn more about that. Don't forget, once a month or sooner, you should be doing these daily, but every month, go in and double check for mobile invoices. If you open up the invoice list, you'll notice that you might have a type column, like an invoice, an estimate, or a mobile invoice. That's an invoice that was created by a mobile device using our app. You can create a global filter that I've created here called Mobile Invoices. I'll right-click on it, click Edit, so you can see how that's done. You could pause the video and duplicate that. When I click it, I can see that I have 27 mobile invoices. They have not hit the general journal, so my income statement and my balance sheet have not been affected yet. Now, the money might be on its way. If we process a credit card, we're still going to get that money. But they have not affected my financials until I have opened each one of them. You want to inspect it. That's why we did it. We want to force you to open this and inspect it and hit the Save Close button. So that's how you would convert the mobile invoice to a regular invoice and finalize it. Now, when you hit Save and Close, of course, the software is going to run through all of its checks. And that's why we want you to do that. You never know what kind of mistakes could have happened in the field, and that's a way of checking that out. Once you've done that, you're ready to go over to banking and make sure that you have deposited all of your payments. On your desk, you might have cash, coin, checks that need your attention. Be sure at the end of the month, and of course, you're going to make your deposits daily, right? But at the end of the month, you want to double check this and make sure that no payments have been missed. These are the payments that have not been deposited. Go in there and double check that. Another way to know is if you go into your balance sheet, you will see under assets, undeposited funds. And those are funds that have not been deposited. Those are the funds that are under this payment button. Definitely perform your bank reconciliations and your credit card reconciliations. Under banking, you will see reconcile account. You have the opportunity to reconcile your bank account and your credit card statements. Remember, a credit card is really just a bank, so it works the exact same way. Be sure you're doing your bank reconciliations every month. We would recommend that you do them every 2 or 3 days, actually. You keep up with it, and then you finalize it at the end of the month. So every few days, you're going online, you're checking your bank, and you're looking for things. Every few days, you're going online and you're checking your credit card and you're looking for things. You're asking people for missing receipts and so forth. You're doing your reconciliations as you go. Now, your final bank reconciliation needs to be done by your most trusted coworker, family member, or outside accountant or other professional. Bank reconciliations are a safety procedure. They are an anti-fraud, anti-embezzlement task. And it's really important that somebody outside the company or somebody very well trusted is the one doing the bank recs. And I would prefer that it not be the bookkeepers, because it's a lot like proofreading an article that you've written. It's hard to proofread your own work, and a bank rec could be thought of as proofreading. I cannot stress the importance of doing a bank rec and having it done by somebody other than the daily bookkeepers. The next thing we want to do is take a look at item receipts that we might have forgotten about. Click Vendors, Receive Items. Now, remember, this might as well say enter a packing slip. This is where we enter our packing slips before we enter our bill. As you might remember, when you enter a packing slip, it automatically or quickly adds those things to inventory, and they do affect your financials, but they must be converted to a bill eventually. Oftentimes, people forget to convert the item receipt to a bill. So let's have a look at the item receipts list. These are item receipts that have not yet been converted to a bill. Every month, you should check these. It may be that they're all legit, that you just haven't gotten the bill. You might want to sort the list and look for old transactions that have not been converted to a bill. If you see an old item receipt in here, then that item receipt has either been added when it shouldn't have been, so it's a duplicate. If that's the case, then you could delete it. It's possible that it was added and the bill never arrived. In that case, you want to go find that bill. You want to ask that vendor for that bill. It's also possible that it was entered and the bill was eventually entered and paid without converting to the item receipt to a bill. Just as a reminder, when you enter your packing slip, your receive items function, your next step is to enter a bill for a received item. You don't want to click enter bills. If you do that, the software will attempt to warn you that it thinks you should be over here. It'll tell you you have an item receipt and you probably should be over here. But we've seen many people enter a bill when the item receipt is already in the software, and you're doubling your liability. So in other words, you're doubling the number of items in stock, depending on what's on that item receipt. So that increases your asset, but it also increases your liability. So go in and check the item receipts, make sure that we haven't forgotten about any of those. At this point, you might want to consider updating your retail pricing on items. You would do that by clicking Company, Update Retail Price. This utility runs through your items. It looks to see what you've been paying for the item and reapplies the markup therefore updating the retail price. Let's take a look at an item real quick so we know what we're talking about. When you create an item, you have the ability to select a markup method. And that markup method is used to create a suggested retail price. And at that point, you can click this little button to update that retail price, or you can enter any price in you want. Over time, it's possible that that retail price becomes outdated, meaning you're paying more for the item and you need to raise your price. We don't raise your retail price automatically because we never know if that's what you would want to do. It's easy to do that, though, in a batch manner by clicking Company, Update Retail Price, and it takes care of that for you very quickly. All of the things that I'm talking about have good help topics at support.aptora.com. The next thing you might want to do at the end of each month is check your cutoff date. Click Preferences, Cutoff Date, Company Preferences. This allows you to cut off a certain period from editing. Now, you may do this once a year, you may change this monthly, but by using this feature, you can prevent unwanted changes to your accounting system. Every month, you might want to update that date. You might have a date that's, say, 6 months old. And that way you're saying, at no time can anyone go back 6 months and update our financials. At a minimum, you want to do that annually. When you file your taxes, you would want to establish your cutoff date and essentially cut off editing that year financially. You might also want to change or start using the warn if transactions are. Remember I showed you that 1920 transaction? This could have prevented it. It would have warned us that what we typed in is probably not a good date. On a monthly basis, it's a good idea to also go into your reminder list and check for any reminders that have not been taken care of. So if these reminders have come and gone, and you can check them here too, if these reminders have come and gone, then you might want to deal with them. You might want to mark them as completed or take care of those things. The same is true with phone messages. Go into your phone message list, sort by date, and be sure that these phone messages whose dates have come and gone have been taken care of. On a related note, we might want to do the same thing with appointments. Go into the appointment list, sort it by date, and see if it's completed. So any date and time that's come and gone, of course, it should be completed. And you might have completed it, but the person just forgot. It does not complete itself automatically. You need to check the little box to mark it as completed. One thing I want to remind all of you is to be backing up your company file. You work in these company files, databases, as we typically call them. So all of your information is in a database. That database is probably sitting on your server. Unless you're hosted, then you don't have to worry about any of this. That database is probably running on your server somewhere, but is it being backed up? If you back up your server, the database may not be being backed up. It has to be backed up by SQL Server first before your server's backup system can back it up. You want to make sure that that database is being backed up every day. Some people back it up multiple times a day. You want to be sure that that backup is valid. An IT professional can check the backup to make sure that that backup is valid. We've had a number of people get hit with viruses or ransomware, or their server failed and they discovered they did not have a backup. The last thing I want to remind everybody to do on a regular basis is to go into your reports and check your aging reports. Look at your customer aging, your AR aging report, and make sure that everybody's paying their bills on time. And this is how you would do it. It's also important you pay your bills on time, but I'm more worried about people paying you than you paying people. But we need to check that too. So we'll go to reports, accounting, vendor. Try that again. We'll go to purchasing, AR aging. I told you this wasn't a Hollywood production, right? So we don't fix that. I just went to the wrong place. You go to company, purchasing, AR aging, summary, or aging, either one. Maybe you have a preference. The as of date, I better change that because typically you're going to have a current date. So I might go on that date, hit preview. Now we can see who we owe and how old it is. And if we need to take care of paying somebody, then as you probably know, you go to your pay bills form, but never pay anybody early. Keep your money as long as you can unless you're getting a discount for early payment. Those are the things that you want to check on a regular basis. Like I said, there are a whole lot more things to do if you're a bookkeeper, but those are the things that are commonly missed, and we hope that helps you. If you like this video, please thumb up and definitely subscribe so you get notifications to these videos. Once again, I'm James Leichter for RA Tax and Accounting in Aptora. Thank you very much.